All right, this is Openstax U.S. History, Chapter 22, Section 3, Economic Imperialism in East Asia. So East Asia refers to both China and Japan, but mostly in this particular period, the era of imperialism, it is China, which is really sought after by the United States. Why did the United States want influence in China? Well, one big factor is the enormous market that China has. This is to sell products, to the large Chinese population. All right, that's really what the desire is. And we can think about this in terms of what we just learned about last section. That was 22.2, and that was the U.S. acquisition of the Philippines, which allowed for a gateway into China. All right, this was a perfect trading port, right? The U.S. could go from the Philippines, bring their goods into China, sell them, and make a lot of money. However, China was a little bit more unique in the sense that there had already been various spheres of influence by other imperial powers. So this might be territory carved up by industrial nations. So the United States is not the only country that wants to sell with China. In fact, the United States is not even close to the only country that wants to sell into China. And before the United States even gets there, before the U.S. actually begins to construct its ports in the Philippines to get access and a gateway into China, other nations have already been there. Some examples include Great Britain. The Opium Wars are fought in the 1840s and 1850s. These were wars to allow Great Britain to sell opium, which is a drug, in China. More or less, the British were growing opium in India, wanted to sell it to the Chinese. The Chinese government tried to stop it. The two sides went to war. Great Britain won that war, and as a constituent, or as a part of that peace treaty, required that China buy British opium. So there were certain ports and certain cities that were under the British sphere of influence. Similarly, China and Japan went to war in the 1890s. Sino simply means China. This was a Japanese victory. And of course, as part of that Japanese victory over China in the 1890s was the right to sell certain goods in certain ports. You also had Russia and Germany who had carved out areas of influence. And so the United States was looking to get in on this, but had a lot of competitors, right? The British, the Japanese, the Russians, the Germans. How's the United States going to get its slice of the pie? The solution for the United States was the open door notes. And what the United States more or less provided, here you can see a picture of Uncle Sam. Here he is. Well, actually, let's get a different color here. Uncle Sam right here in the middle. And what he is presenting is the open door notes. And you have all these other countries that are, all these other countries that are represented. This guy looks like he's Great Britain. This guy right here kind of looks like Germany. I don't know what these countries are. Maybe this guy is France right here. But essentially what the United States said to all these other nations was, look, instead of just carving out our own separate spheres of influence, rather than having this part of China be Britain's, this part be Russia, this part be Japan, instead, why don't we make China like a store with its doors open and allow free trade for all, right? So the open door notes is essentially the suggestion that all of China be open for trade, right? To all. And so that way there wouldn't have to be necessarily any competition, and the United States could get in on it. And what the U.S. was banking on essentially was that the United States would produce the most superior quality goods. And so it'd be through free trade and the free market that the United States can kind of wrestle control away from Russia, Germany, and Great Britain, who they all believed produced inferior goods. Now, these other nations didn't necessarily endorse the open door notes. You didn't have a conflict break out between the imperial powers, but the United States claimed victory in pursuing this policy. Rather, instead, what happened was that there was a rebellion from the Chinese. The Boxer Rebellion was an anti-foreigner rebellion against, again, all these nations here, right? Great Britain plus Russia plus Germany plus Japan plus the U.S., right? Here are some Boxer rebellions here. And the result of the Boxer Rebellion was that all of these nations right here, including the United States, teamed up against the rebellion and eventually went on to crush it, right? And so this was, despite the best efforts by the Chinese to regain control of their own country, the imperial powers teamed up with one another and put down this anti-foreigner rebellion.